So delighted to be joined by Ali Isom Leonard, who's a senior security consultant with Bureau Happold. Ali, thank you very much for making time to talk to me today. That's really much appreciated. I know that you've been working in the private security industry for just over 20 years. And I wondered if I could start by asking you, could you just tell me a little bit about your career path that's brought you to the role that you have today?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for taking the opportunity, giving me the opportunity to speak today as well, as part of International Women's Day. I started back in the security industry whilst whilst studying at university, working on the doors and events and festivals on a part-time basis, both during term time and out. After university, I pursued what was my undergraduate degree path, starting with sports coaching, but it wasn't quite the career for me. So I continued with my security on a part-time, and then after that moved to a full-time level as well. What part of that when I worked at Wembley Stadium as part of the corporate banqueting and permanent security team there. And I remember standing in the green car park, way in the corner, in the pouring rain, wearing a high vis, and thought, there's got to be more to life and more to security than just standing in a car park in the rain. So, and I wanted to learn more about the trade that I was in. So I did a bit of research and found that Loughborough was doing a MSc in security management. So I joined up and pursued that postgraduate as well. So because what was really keen to me is part of my progression throughout my career, I wanted to learn what I was actually doing, why I'm doing it, because just because I'm told to stand in an area or told to lock a door or a gate or something, I wanted to actually understand why. I'm a keen learner, so that's how I sort of drove or pursued my career path within the security industry. From that, I became one of the security and safety managers for the outlying zone with G4S through London 2012. After that, operations managers through a couple of companies, and eventually led to directorship as well. I was head of security for one of the largest private developments in Europe across 4 years, and through that I was able to establish protective security strategies and operations for the site, and growing the actual security element from patrol rooms, establishing a control room as well, and which was a key part in supporting the risk and resilience to the site as well. Throughout this time as well, I wanted to pass my knowledge and experience on, so I also started teaching the SIA courses, health and safety, first aid courses, as well as writing some courses for clients, which became accredited through Skills for Security on the Ofqual framework. Now working at Bureau Happold as a senior security consultant, I'm able to offer this guidance, knowledge and experience to a realm of clients, making premises and sites safe, secure and welcoming for all.
Thanks, Ali. I think what I'm picking up from that is the breadth of roles that you've had, but also the breadth of opportunity there actually is in the private security industry. Would you agree with that, that the opportunities are there?
Most definitely. As I've kind of just alluded to through the whirlwind tour of my career, it was I started as a guard in effect. Doing from the corporating and banqueting and permanent security team at Wembley, whilst you're at one site, you're actually doing two different things. So the corporate and banqueting is very much more customer facing. You're doing bag searches for various delegates, supporting the events team from not on the larger events such as the football, although I did work on those, but the smaller events such as your conferences, things like that, which you don't appreciate if you're not part of the private security industry. You don't necessarily appreciate the importance that those security officers have. Additionally, as part of the permanent security team, the PST, you're doing continuous patrols, you're doing CCTV, you're doing door locks for the FM team. So again, it's a real key pillar within any operation, and I'm not talking about just security operations, talk about a building or a site operation, what the importance that security has. And once you understand that, you then have your supervisor roles or your team leader roles, then you have your management roles of various levels, and then through to directorship. So there is definitely a career path there within the security industry. It doesn't just stop at guarding, and it doesn't just jump to management. There is a true career path.
Thank you. And I know that you've worked on a number of high-profile public operations, the Olympic Games, the NFL London tours, and Champions League finals. From your perspective, what value do women add on those high-profile events?
One of the key things back sort of 10 20 years ago, the security industry as I experienced it was heavily male orientated. And I would say that from both the frontline and an operational managerial perspective, because there were females, but they were historically, as I found, more in HR or more in accounting, which isn't a bad thing. But from an operational perspective, the management were few and far between to have a female manager. So to have women involved from the front line as both officers, supervisors and managers allowed a different approach to strategic thought from strategic levels right through to operational levels, whether it be the planning phases or real world dynamic environments. Some events, particularly the football ones, can be a bit testosterone driven, and some may say, and I'm an advocate of this, that the clarity of a woman within any level of the operation can be welcome, as it allows for a rational approach where bravado may have taken over a particular situation. By having a woman interject and just be that sort of clear thinking person, because they haven't necessarily got something to prove, it can really help. But it should be noted that having a diverse workforce, be it genders, ethnicity, cultural background, sexual orientation, age, life experiences, people with children, people without, is imperative to any organisation, as it allows for a realm of experience to bring knowledge to situations for them to be dealt with in the best way for all, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's those differing perspectives, isn't it, to bring to a situation. I know that you've been really keen to support everybody in the teams that you've led, be it from the perspective of training or mentoring or professional development. What advice would you give to women in the industry who perhaps feel either that their careers have stalled or they're seeking to develop their own professional skill set, which obviously you've done?
So everyone is different and will have different aims, goals and objectives. As I've mentioned, for me, I love to learn. So doing courses supported by just going out independently and reading literature, books or reports is what gave me the confidence to know that what I'm talking about is what I'm talking about, and it's backed up by research and evidence. So therefore, when I was applying for roles, I knew that I was able to achieve the requirements of the job. But back when I started my career, I wasn't aware of the network of females to reach out to in order to understand the paths and options that I had. So I kind of forged them myself, and I had to sort of put myself out there by speaking to people, primarily male, but how did you get there? What career path? And a lot of it was ex-military, ex-police, and they then sort of reached a particular management level. So there was a bit of a gap of someone who was just pure private security industry. How do you get to that next level? And I felt that I kind of had to prove my worth in twofold. I wasn't ex-military or ex-police, but then also I'm a female in the industry as well. So in order for me to compete with my male counterparts for certain roles, I felt like I had to have my qualifications in order to back me up. But today I think it's really different. The security industry has come on leaps and bounds, and it does have a standing of professionalism within it. There are a number of different groups for women in the security industry these days, and I would urge anyone to reach out to the very vast number of groups and associations. You have the Women in Security Academy, Women in International Security, Women's Security Society, and they're just a few that I can kind of think of off the top of my head. So please do reach out. LinkedIn is a great platform to reach out, and I'm very confident that with the women I know in the industry, not anyone will take the opportunity to help and mentor anyone to get to that next rung of the ladder, or just develop and improve in your current role. Not everyone wants to be a manager, not everyone wants to be a director, and that's absolutely fine, but everyone wants to. I do believe that in the security end, everyone wants to be the best that they can be within their role. And I've mentored women and men of all ages and backgrounds in my teams, and those who have just come and asked me for help and guidance. As I mentioned, not everyone, learning isn't the best way for everyone. So to gain that competence, which is what I believe the perfect merge of experience and learning, whether it be the traditional degrees or qualifications, but CPD is reading a report. You can download a report from the internet, so it doesn't necessarily have to be driven for monetary value. So there are many ways, but you must reach out. It's really important to reach out to people.
Thank you, Ali. Ali, can I conclude by asking you, what does International Women's Day mean for you?
International Women's Day is, I believe, an opportunity for people, primarily women, but people generally, to reflect on how far we've come. We've still got a very long way to go, both within the UK and internationally. But, it was less than 100 years ago that women actually achieved the same voting rights for men. It was 1928. But prior to that, there were various restrictions for women. So, less than 100 years ago, we weren't equal. There are still areas in the business workforce, both within the security industry and generally, where equality has to still apply, and progression needs to occur. And we know on an international basis, we just need to look at the protests of from Iran, the lack of women's rights there, and people need to use the appropriate stage and platforms to ensure that we are in a society now where it's okay to call someone out, as long as we identify what the root cause is and we put the corrective action in place. When people aren't willing to put the corrective actions in place is when we will never progress. And as I say, to say that just less than 100 years ago women were shackled, for lack of a better word, and were seen as second class citizens, and we've come on leaps and bounds, and we've got to continue that. We've got to continue that in order to get to where we all want to be.
Ali, thank you so much for your time.
No problem at all.
And for sharing your thoughts with us. It's been really interesting. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.